Okay, let's dive right into this explainer by tackling a massive frustration you've almost certainly felt when your high traffic just isn't translating into actual sales. You know the feeling, right? You launch a new product, run an expensive campaign, and your analytics dashboard absolutely lights up. Hundreds, maybe thousands of hits. But at the end of the day, your bottom line barely moves. You've done all the heavy lifting to get eyes on the page, so it's incredibly discouraging. Well, today, we're going to fix that. We are fundamentally changing your approach to look at how you can qualify people based on true readiness, rather than just raw, surface-level interest.
So you're staring at your analytics. You might have thousands of clicks, hundreds of downloads, but if nothing is actually moving, you are dealing with a readiness problem, not a traffic problem. We so often get completely caught up in the vanity of volume, don't we? We just assume more eyeballs automatically means more conversions, but the reality is something underneath those numbers is fundamentally off.
Here's the crucial point. Putting everyone into the exact same funnel assumes all engagement is exactly the same. And honestly, that's a really dangerous illusion. When we treat every single click as an equal signal of intent, we're just hoping broadly rather than converting strategically. Because, look, not all interest is equal. Someone idly clicking a link on their lunch break is definitely not the same as someone actively searching for a life-changing solution. Once you truly grasp this distinction, you can't unsee it. It's going to change the entire way you look at your audience.
Today, we're completely shifting your paradigm from optimizing for passive interest to optimizing for active readiness. We'll be moving through 5 key areas: the problem with interest, meet the 3 archetypes, contrasting behaviors and needs, tailoring your messaging strategy, and tracking behavior, not volume. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The problem with interest. Let's unpack exactly why relying on the algorithm to qualify your leads is a fundamentally flawed strategy.
When we look at the reality of a standard funnel, the numbers are pretty eye-opening. While the algorithm sends you all this volume based on simple clicks and views, notice that tiny 10% sliver of people who are actually ready now. The vast majority of your traffic, they're either overwhelmed or just casually curious. Think about it. If you're speaking to that entire group with the exact same level of urgency and the exact same call to action, you're alienating 90% of them and completely underserving the 10% that actually matter to your bottom line right now.
And the disconnect happens right here. The algorithm is simply not built to measure commitment, which leaves your internal systems flooded with really shallow volume. Social media algorithms are great at tracking simple behavioral patterns, clicks, views, engagement, but what they absolutely cannot see is human discipline. They don't detect resilience. They definitely can't measure follow-through. Because the input looks right to us, we see the traffic graph going up, we falsely assume our sales system is broken when conversions don't happen. In reality, the system just wasn't built to filter for actual depth.
Which brings us to Section 2, meet the 3 archetypes. Who is actually sitting in your funnel right now? To fix your conversions, you have to realize that when someone clicks your link, they fall into one of 3 very distinct behavioral profiles. Let's meet them. First up, we have the hopeful observer. Now, these folks really like the idea of change. They'll happily watch your videos, they'll download all your free PDFs, but they are really just testing the waters. They aren't fully committed to the transformation yet. They're dipping a toe in, looking around, and engaging pretty passively without putting any real skin in the game. They're super happy to consume, but extremely hesitant to actually act.
Next, we've got the overwhelmed starter. They rush in. They want change right now. But then, bam, they hit a massive wall. They completely underestimate the actual demand of the work. The very second the effort becomes visible and the harsh reality sets in, they freeze. They slow down. They stop entirely. This archetype right here is your absolute biggest source of drop-off. The exact moment things get hard, they are completely out.
And finally, we have the ready mover. Now this is where the magic happens. They deeply understand the heavy weight of their goal. They're totally done looking for mere inspiration. They just want clear, actionable structure. They move incredibly fast, they make decisions quickly, and they execute immediately. Let me tell you, your business actually grows, scales, and thrives when you learn to recognize and fiercely prioritize this specific group. Moving into Section 3, contrasting behaviors and needs. Mapping this disconnect is so crucial because treating these 3 archetypes the exact same way is guaranteed to break your sales process. Because their behaviors are so wildly different, what they specifically need from you is completely different too. The hopeful observer is passively engaging, right? So what they intensely need from you is just awareness. They need to understand what's actually possible in your ecosystem. The overwhelmed starter stops when it gets tough. They heavily need reassurance. They need to know they can actually do it and they aren't alone. But the ready mover?
They're already moving fast. They simply need clear direction. If you give a ready mover mere awareness, they get bored and bounce. If you give an overwhelmed starter strict direction without any reassurance, they immediately panic. You have to deeply understand who you're talking to at all times. So how do we fix this? That's Section 4, Tailoring Your Messaging Strategy. Let's look at how to properly adjust the way you actually talk to your audience.
If you just hope broadly and collapse all 3 unique needs into one general message, your buyer's decision-making process just stays horribly delayed. Instead, you've got to radically separate your messaging based on their readiness. For the hopeful observer, focus your messaging entirely on low-pressure educational content, like high-value newsletters that build massive awareness over time without a hard sell. For the overwhelmed starter, shift your messaging to emphasize community support, step-by-step hand-holding, and constant reassurance. And for the ready mover, cut the fluff entirely. Your messaging should be intensely direct, offering clear ROI and strict direction on what they need to purchase right now. When you target the message to the specific readiness level, you effortlessly cut right through the noise.
I love this quote because it really captures the essence of this whole strategy. You must intelligently separate your conversations because diluted clarity always leads to zero conversions. When your messaging tries to speak to everyone, it lands fully with no one. A single catch-all sales page usually fails not because the product is bad, but because it's frantically trying to softly comfort the overwhelmed while simultaneously trying to give fast-paced direction to the ready. It's literally a psychological impossibility. It just doesn't work.
All right, our final piece, Section 5, Tracking Behavior, not Volume. Let's explore how your internal systems can be powerfully used to identify who is truly ready without you having to just guess. This right here is a massive mindset shift. You need to intimately frame your data as a perfect mirror reflecting real human behavior and identity, not just cold, hard metrics. When we just blankly stare at a massive spreadsheet of clicks, we naturally feel totally disconnected. But when we suddenly remember that every single click, every delay, every unopened email represents a living, breathing human being acting on their own internal beliefs, wow, the data completely comes alive. So what should you actually be looking for? Well, every action or inaction is a huge clue telling you exactly which archetype you're dealing with. The person who excitedly opens your emails every week but never buys? That's your hopeful observer. The person who aggressively clicks through, starts checkout, but nervously abandons the cart at the last second? That's an overwhelmed starter hesitating at the finish line. And the person who replies immediately or buys the absolute moment a cart opens? That is your highly prized ready mover.
Here is exactly how you put this into practice right now. By rigorously following these 3 steps, you're going to calm your business down, write significantly smarter messaging, and massively increase your conversion consistency. Step 1. Permanently stop taking inaction personally. It's almost never about you, it's about their own readiness. Step 2. Accurately read these hidden behavioral patterns using your real data. And Step 3. Completely stop exhaustingly chasing sheer volume and start actively prioritizing the forward movement of the ready.
The ultimate takeaway here? The gap has always been in your interpretation. Once you align your expectations with reality, massive growth follows naturally. People operate based on their own unique past experiences and their own tolerance for discomfort. The exact same product produces wildly different outcomes for different people because the people themselves are fundamentally different. There's absolutely nothing wrong with your audience, and there is nothing wrong with your offer.
So I'm going to leave you with this one crucial question to boldly ask yourself the very next time you pull up your analytics dashboard. Are you just chasing volume, or are you proactively prioritizing movement? Stop frantically trying to capture absolutely everyone. Start powerfully identifying the right people significantly faster. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this completely changes how you look at your funnels going forward. Catch you next time.